Okay, I've just gone through about 20 minutes, 25 minutes of how players need to be fluid and energetic, and my way of sort of working and thinking and how we can get the players and the parents to work together. Today's example was a 9v9 setup. I said at the end of the video that I've got a 9v9 team, 11v11, 12s and the 06s, but the concept's the same. So I'm going to let the 06s see this as well. So if you are the 06, don't worry too much about the 9v9. Still the same concept, it'll just have a couple more players. Alright, enjoy the video. Okay, if this is the first time of you seeing me, my name is Shaun Spencer and I'm going to be coaching this summer season. So before I sort of start the season and before we have this initial meeting, what I wanted to do is just go through a few things, and I honestly believe the best way to do this is video. And I've got the Subbuteo laid out in front of me. If you've not seen one of these, it's actually a old sort of children's game and men play it and they have a World Cup and everything, but it is also ideal for showing things to do with coaching and soccer, and I find this is a good way of explaining stuff. So what I've got laid out here in red, which hopefully you can see okay, is 9 players, because that is how many players we're going to be playing with this season. Now, as you can see, I've got it laid out in 3-3-2 with a goalkeeper, but before I go into any of that stuff, there's a couple of things that I want to explain. So this season, I understand that your child or you as a player might be used to a certain position. So you might be used to this sort of wide right player, or you might be this striker or central defender, whatever it is. But one thing that we need to sort of understand going into the season is that in order for you to develop and progress in the game, you need to be flexible and you need to be able to adapt to multiple positions. Even if you look at the sort of the top level, you'll see players who might be a centre midfielder and they might, drop in a little bit deeper in front of the defence. They might even drop alongside the central defender, and sometimes they might go out into one of the wide defensive positions or even out wide into the midfield position. So that's at the very top end of the game. So we're talking international level players. Now, why it's important for you is obviously each person has different aspirations and different goals. So if your goal is to play at a higher level, there's no guarantee that that team, or maybe it's college or high school or whatever it will be, there's no guarantee that that right midfield spot is available. It might not become available, but you might be a good enough player to play in this team. So if you can only play right midfielder, you're going to limit your chances, certainly with college, high school, and then when you move throughout your career. If you look at sort of older players, like 17, 18, 19-year-old players that are breaking into adult first teams, they're coming in and being like a substitution in the 80th minute, and you might just have to do a job somewhere. So if you're this right winger, for instance, they might just need a quick, energetic, fit, right-footed player to play right fullback, because the right fullback is, injured or older and starting to get cramped. So it's important that first and foremost that you are able to adapt to different positions. Now, I'm a great believer in, if you're a good player, you can play anywhere. is something that, like, even I've had to do this in my career. I started as a left fullback, but then because I was a good runner, I was then a wing back going up and down. I played left wing, I played centre mid, centre defence, played as a striker, right wing, and also a couple of games as a goalkeeper during pre-season. So it's just one of them things that I want to make really clear throughout the season, is that we are adaptable and we're not afraid of different positions. Okay, last but not least on positions, let's say you are a big, tall striker, scoring plenty of goals, but you're able to get away with like a bad touch maybe, because you can just sort of knock the ball into space and your speed and strength will overcome any sort of issues with them little touches. Now, you might not be able to get away with that if you're in the central midfield position, or if you're a defender, stuff like that. So there's an overall development that I, as a coach, need to do, and that's something else that we should be aware of, because my job is to make you the best possible player that you can be, and sometimes that is going slightly out of your comfort zone. But again, a lot of the time with stuff like that is having an open mind and having the correct attitude to do it. I understand everybody has the preferred place on the field that they would be and where they feel most comfortable, and oftentimes that's where you'll kind of gravitate anyway. But time and a place where you may need to fill in other positions, and obviously like tournaments and stuff like that is a prime example. Another example might be playing a really strong team with a really strong, powerful striker, and we might just need to match them up with a strong, powerful player of our own to just neutralise that threat. So that is going to be the thinking on the sort of positions and stuff like that. Okay, in terms of how we're going to play this season over the summer, it's going to be pretty simple really. So the foundation of it should be fun, and it should be an enjoyable way of playing. It's also going to be highly energetic. It's going to be fast, and when I say fast, it's going to be not only physical in terms of like running speed fast, and the way we play is going to be fast, but it also mentally how we process the information and play. So the aim is to get everything to sort of click together and it be a sort of more intellectual, thoughtful way of playing, which will then speed everything up. And that'll come out in practice and in the games, and it will take a little bit of time, but it's exciting, and it's a great way to sort of develop and move from just being individual players relying on individual ability and coming more together as a team. Now, how we're going to do that is the foundation is going to be a solid team defence. Basically, everybody working together as a team, rather than relying solely on the individual to stop the other team individual. And that playing that way is going to help us sort of tilt the scale in our favour. So then it doesn't really matter who we come up against and who we play. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So at the moment I've got this laid out in a 3-3-2, and again, I don't want you to pay too much attention to the formations. At this point it doesn't really matter, and I'll explain that why in a second. So let's say we start this way, because it might just make sense in terms of the players that we have. We might have, you know, 3 comfortable defenders. So we might start that way. And then we've got these wide players up here, a centre midfielder, and then there's 2 strikers here. But what I want to show you is how sort of fluid all this can be if everybody's on the same page and is open-minded. So by that, what I mean is, so say we have the 3 defenders here, and then, for instance, let's say these players then drop back. So essentially now we have some wide fullbacks, and we've got these players in here. Now, we might not actually need that many players. I don't think we do need that many players. So with that, we can have an extra centre midfielder in there, and then we have 4 at the back, and these 2 wide players. But then what we can do with these wide players is they can push forward and join into the attack. So now we have 4 strikers. They can come into midfield, so we have 4 midfielders, or they can come back and we've got 4 defenders. Now, where this is important is, let's say these players go forward and the ball is down here. We lose the ball in transition, and now there's big spaces here, there's big spaces there, which can be an issue. So what we could do there is these centre backs just go a little bit wider, and the midfielder just drops into here. So now we have 3, and we're back into the formation that I started with a little bit earlier. From that, similar thing happens with the strikers here. So let's say there we've got 2 strikers, these come forward, we have 4 strikers, but let's say this one drops into here, and now we've got 1 striker, and we've got 4 in midfield. So with it, everything is interchangeable. Let's say he wants to drop in as well, now we have no strikers, but these 2 push into these spaces in this sort of the wider areas. With that, same again, 1 can go up, then we've got these 2 holding ones, which then allows these to go a little bit wider. Now we've got 3 in there, they can push forward, like so. Let's just go back to this one a second. Okay, we've got 1 striker in this formation there. Let's say we want 1 a little bit deeper in there as more of a playmaker, and then we can have 1 a little bit more advanced in there. So hopefully what I'm trying to show you here is how, what I was saying earlier about the importance of players not being tied down to a position. This is where it's important, because like I said, this wide player might be a fullback, might be left winger, might be more of a wing forward, a striker, and then even with this, where he's out wide, we might want him to come in a little bit more narrow in here and sort of overload this middle area. Likewise with the centre defenders, let's say we've got 4 here, like so. Now, rather than the 4 defenders just staying there in a line, like one of these tends to be quicker than another one, so then you can sort of have it slightly offset, so that the slower player can win the ball in here, but then if this person misses it, then we're going to have cover in there. So now we have a kind of little diamond in the defence. Centre back needs to be comfortable in operating in these midfield areas. Wide players, the wide defenders need to be comfortable defending out here. They also need to be comfortable playing into here as well. Whilst all this is happening in here, we've got the goalkeeper. Now, I like the goalkeeper to be able to play. If the goalkeeper, based on where the ball is, based on the coverage of the player, so if this player is open in here, then obviously we need to be a little bit more concerned if he can shoot from there. But if he's got good coverage, then the goalkeeper can operate as a sweeper in there. So then we have, let's push this back a little bit. So now we have this where if the ball goes into this position, we have the front defender closing him down there, but we've also got the cover here. And then let's say that ball is then knocked over the top. We then have two covering players essentially. We've got the centre defender here, and then we also have the goalkeeper who can cover it as well. So that is a simple view of how we're going to be fluid in terms of positional movement and how everybody is going to have to play everywhere. Now, obviously, this will also come into effect with the defensive side, what we're going to do. And this is what I was saying is important with how we're going to play. So let's say, for argument's sake, this player is very, very good. Let's say this player is like superior for his age group, top level player. Now, this player versus this player is going to get beat because this player is better. This player is also occupied, so there's no cover there. So what we need to do is, rather than relying on these kind of little situations here, is the whole team has to work as a unit to stop this player. And how that's going to happen is each player, depending on, let's have a look. So there we go. So what have we got there? We've got four strikers in there, 4 attacking players, let's say. And all we're going to do is, anytime player transitions happens, the player goes onto the ball, then it is the job of the closest player to sort of deal with that. And then there's always going to be supporting players. So rather than this player just staying with him because he's not bothered about it being his man, likewise with this person, we're going to try and do numbers up, essentially. That's the best way to explain it. So what would happen in this situation is he's going to come in here. So now we know he can only go forward, he can only go that way. When that happens, he's then going to start to encroach in there, like so, forcing him a certain way. Then the next player is going to step out into here. Now that will cause issues at the back, see it time and time again. But what we're going to do here, and we'll have sort of triggers and little things like that, is these players are going to immediately come into the high priority spaces. So now you start to create a numbers up. Basically all the players are coming together. But this type of thing might happen here, where that ball is then played into here because he's gone, and now he's free. We've got 3 players in the middle, so now we have to adjust again. So this player goes into here, and now we know that player can't go in there. This player is an option, so he would then start to come onto this one. This player is going to come in to cover him in here, and then this player is going to be looking at the line. His body shape's going to be open to see what this player is doing. If that player does start to come down to here, it's going to be his job to track him. But let's say he doesn't, and they somehow manage to play this big ball across there. As that's going across, he's able to travel with him there, he comes across, he comes across. By this time, he should now be starting to drop in. But with this, and this is where I was saying it's going to be highly energetic, is you're going to have the ball moving, players going to, players coming in compact, like so, and then the ball might go back into there. So now we need like these types of movements happening constantly. That might go back into there. Then we need him going, a player stepping into here, like so, him going there. Then it might get popped out to here. He comes across, like so. So it's gonna be a different sort of level of energy I think most players are going to be used to. But again, it's a fun way of doing it, and players like to have time on the ball, and that's one thing that we're not going to give them. So that's about it. I could talk all day about this stuff. Again, don't worry if you don't understand any of this. We're going to go through this week in, week out, every training session. But the main thing, what I wanted to get out of today, is to show you some of the sort of the ideas and how I work and what we're thinking. I'll also do more of these videos because in practice we'll do specific sort of situations, and I think this is a good way for the players and the parents, because what we don't want is me teaching the players one thing and what I want them to do at certain triggers, and then the parents not understanding why that player's doing it. Especially at the start when it might not be as seamless, and some players might make mistakes, they might get caught in sort of no man's zone. So yeah, we have to be patient, but we need everybody to understand what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. I'm doing the 12s, and that was the example that I did today. But I'm also doing the 06s, and it's very similar. It's a similar concept. So yeah, I'll be back soon.